into standing to start off with. Just make sure you've got a little bit of room around you. And just reinforcing what I said last week. So take it completely at your own level. If you feel there are certain exercises that you don't want to do because you don't feel comfortable or you don't feel like you've got the control to do them, then either just modify them slightly or stick to the easier options, or just take a little rest and then join back in when you feel that you're able to. So very much you're in control of this workout and only do the things that you feel comfortable with. So we're going to start in standing and just thinking a little bit about your posture. So standing up nice and tall, making sure that you've got nice wide shoulders, just relaxing your ribs down and lengthening your tailbone away. So you're standing as tall as you can. If you have a little bit of string attached to the top of your head, lifting you up. And then just bring your hands in front. We're going to take the arms out to the side and then back. So as you're doing this, just a little bit of movement from the shoulder joint. Try not to squeeze your shoulder blades together and keep them as wide as you can. And then from there, just extend the fingertips away and then return to that start point. So we're just thinking about our posture, bringing in a little bit of movement through the arms. As you take the arm out to the side, try and keep the shoulder relaxed down so that's not starting to hunch up by your ears. And then on this next one, as we extend away through the arms, we're going to lift up through the heels, coming onto your toes and then controlling all the way back down. So we lift up as we extend the arms away. Apologies for the toddler running in front. Daddy Daycare is not doing a very good job there. So we're lifting up, but this one brings under those heels, controlling up and then controlling all the way back down. So we'll make this our last one. And then as you come back down, just give your shoulders a little roll. What we're doing here is just releasing any tension that you might be feeling through the shoulders, through the neck. And then from there, slide your left hand down your leg, stretching through the right side of the body. Take that arm all the way up and over, just to increase that stretch right the way through, as if someone was pulling on that arm, really stretching and lengthening through that side as much as you can, and then just return to that upright position. This time I'm going to circle the shoulders all the way forwards. And then take a side bend across to the other side. Reaching that arm all the way up and over. Again, same thing, trying to lengthen through that side, extending the fingertips away. And then release back down. One more time, circle backwards. And down to the side, reaching up and over. And circling back, this time circling forwards. Then down the side, reach up and over. And circle back to that start point. From here, we're going to work into the legs a little bit. So we're going to take the legs wide, toes pointing slightly out to the side. Again, thinking about having that long, straight spine. Your knees are going to track in line with your second toe. The knees go out to the side, squeezing through the glutes to keep those knees pressing out, and then coming back to that upright position. So we slide down into that squat. Just take that as deep as you feel that you're able to. So you can make it just a very small squat there, or you can sink right the way down into the legs, working into the thighs and the glutes there. On this next one, we're going to hold at the bottom, so just whatever range you want, holding it there. And we're going to lift through one heel, lift that back down, and then lift through the other heel. So as you're working through the ankles, try and keep your pelvis nice and level. Try and keep your tailbone lengthening down towards the floor, so that you're not arching your lower back and keeping those shoulders wide. We'll just do one more on each side here, and then we're going to take a little stretch. So bring the toes forwards on that leg, other toes turn out to the side, and we straighten both legs as we come down into our triangle pose, just to get a little bit of a stretch. So as you do this, try and press your ribs down, getting straight line once again through the body, fingertips reaching to the ceiling, and just feeling that stretch through the back of that leg. We then circle the arm overhead, coming back to our squat, and this time we're going to hold the legs and just pulse with the arms. So little 100 pulses, as if you're just tapping at the side. And as we do that, and then we're going to take a stretch over to the other side. So the toes on this leg point forwards as we straighten out through both knees and sink down through the ribs. So again, feeling that stretch this time on the opposite leg. We're going to circle back round once again into our squat as we hold this position. This time we're going to lift through both heels. So we lift up and then release back down. And as you do that, try not to have too much movement through your body. So you're lifting up through the heels, but trying to keep your hips as still as you can. This looks good, well done. We'll just do a couple more. Challenges the balance a little bit as well. And working through the thighs. Last one here. And then take a big circle round as we come up into standing and walk those feet back in underneath the hips. We're going to finish our warm up with Pilates roll down. So just come so that you're standing at the end of your mat. So you should have your mat out in front of you as you do this. And to do our roll down, we take our chin to our chest. We roll down through the upper back, through the mid back, down through the lower back. Just allow your hands to hang heavy to the floor. Feeling that length through the back of the spine, through the back of the legs. And then restacking one vertebra on top of the other, piece by piece by piece, like building blocks, coming back to that standing position. So do that a couple more times, a little bit more flow to the movement, a little bit quicker. So chin to chest, rolling down through the spine, piece by piece, really drawing through your abs, try and get that curve right the way through the back, and then restacking back to that tall standing position. So just working through the spine a little bit. And again, last one as we roll down through the spine. This time we're going to hold it at the bottom, so just feel that stretch. If you need to, you can put a little bend into your knees. Just allow your fingertips to contact the floor. Just enjoy that stretch. And then from there, walk your hands forwards so that you come into a kneeling position on your mat. So I'm just going to adjust my camera angle a little bit here so that you can see me. And just in that kneeling position. So from that position, really try and flatten out through your back. Try and keep your head lifted, so your chin's tucked in. Ribs are connected, so not just allowing your ribs to fall down to the mat. Try and keep your lower back in that neutral position. Again, we're lengthening the tailbone away. And then from that position, we're going to slide opposite hand and foot away along the mat. And then continue that movement to lift the arm and leg into that lengthened position. So you're trying to make your body as long as possible, reaching your fingertips and your toes away from each other. And then release back down and switch that to the other side. So slide the arm and leg away. When you can't slide any further, extend them up. So you're making that long straight line through your body. And then release back down. Each time we're switching from side to side. Now, if when you're doing this, Sorry about that. So if as you're doing this, you're feeling any discomfort into your wrists, you can come up onto your knuckles there, just to keep your wrists in a nice neutral position. As I say, just alternating one side to the next. As you get to that top position, just feeling that you're switching on through your centre, switching on through your glutes, and staying strong through that supporting shoulder. So we've done a few movements here, keeping the back nice and straight. What we're going to do on this next one, you're going to hold your position and just try and lift the arm and the foot a little bit higher so that you get a slight curve through the back. And what you don't want to do is just hinge through your lower back. You want to try and get a nice smooth curve through the whole of your spine, so through your upper back and through your lower back. Don't feel any discomfort there at all. It's just a slight lift. You're keeping the glutes switched on as you lift. And from there, take that same elbow to your knee and just round through your spine. So you're coming into a nice curved position. So staying on this side, extend away, slight little lift to come into a little bit of a back bend and then come in to that curved position. We'll just do a couple more on this side, remembering if it's uncomfortable at all on the wrist, just coming up onto the knuckle as I showed you, or taking a little rest and then coming back to join us. We're going to come back to that straight back position, still on this one side. We did this last week, just taking the arm and leg out to the side and then back. So drop the arm and leg out to the side and return. Keeping your center set, keeping that nice straight back position, and then switch that over to the other side. So extend away, lift up, continuing that lift to get a slight arch into the back, but only as far as it's comfortable for you. Then bring elbow to knee, drawing through your abs to come into that curl position. And then again. Extending and coming knee to elbow to curl in. So as you're doing this, trying to keep as sort of strong and stable as you can through that supporting leg and shoulder. If you're wobbling a little bit, that's okay. And then coming to that straight position, holding that there as we take the arm and leg out to the side and then return. Lovely. So I'm going to have a little look at you, how you're getting on with this. As I say, if you can turn your video on, because it's nice to kind of see how you're getting on with the exercises. Those of you who do have your camera on there, that looks good. And then coming back into that position on all fours, we're just going to drop down onto your elbows, but still try and keep that long straight line through your spine. And we're going to do a little bit of work for the glutes in this position. So just slide out one leg and then continue to lift until you've got a straight line through your body. Bring that leg all the way back in and then go again. So we lift, squeeze into the glutes without arching the back. This time we're keeping the back nice and straight. And just feeling that work into the hip of that leg that you're lifting and lowering. On your supporting leg, try to keep your hip directly over your knee. It's quite easy on this exercise to transfer your weight across to the side. So just making sure you're keeping in that straight line. And that you stay nice and strong through your upper back and don't start to round. This time I'm going to keep the legs straight, just drop the toes to the floor and then lift up again. So we drop the toes and lift, drop and lift. One more, then hold it here, bend the knee and just take a little press up to the ceiling with the foot. Again, try not to arch your lower back. Try to keep your hips square and strong through your shoulders for bringing that leg back in and switching to the other side. We start with that lift up to that straight line and then folding back in. Extend away and fold back in. Good. The only place there should be movement here is through that hip as you lift and lower the leg. And if you remember on the other side, I'm going to hold that leg, drop the toes down, and then lift again. So you drop the toes and lift. Staying strong through your upper back. You might be starting to feel this through your upper back, around your shoulders as they work to hold that position. And then holding that leg, bend the knee, and just give me those little pulses once again, up to the ceiling, really squeezing into the glutes of that leg you've got lifted. Make sure in your supporting leg, you've still got the hip directly over the knee. And then to finish off here, we're going to take that leg down, bring the other leg back to join it, drop your hips so you're in a strong plank position and just hold that for a little bit of endurance. So as you're in this position, just try and think through your body and the position that you're in. So you want your head to be lifted so that you're long through the back of your neck. So don't allow your head to drop down or your head to the top of your head to point to the floor. Try not to round through your upper back, so keeping that nice and strong and flat, and make sure that your lower back isn't arching. Now, if you're finding this too difficult, you can bend your knees, place them onto the mat, or you can take a little rest and then just join back in when you feel that you can. Just hold it for a few more seconds before dropping the knees down and just sitting back onto your heels, reaching the arms forwards. This is your little bit of recovery here. We are then going to go back and do another plank hold. So when you feel ready, just coming back onto your forearms, nice straight line from the crown of your head through to your tailbone, extend one leg behind, bring the other one to join it, then just drop those hips until you're in that straight line position, keeping your chin tucked in, long through the back of your neck, shoulders relaxing down, drawing in through your abs, keeping the hips open, so try not to have your bottom sticking up in the air, and just hold that for a few more minutes. Come and have a little look at these. I said a few more minutes, I don't mean that long. A few more moments. And then if you haven't already, just drop those knees back, sit back once again into your shell stretch, just for a little bit of recovery. If it doesn't feel comfortable on your knees to sit right the way down onto your heels, you can keep your hips lifted. Whichever position you're in, just reach those arms forwards to get a good stretch. And then just rolling up into an upright position. Take your hands behind your back and just open out through the front of your chest as you clasp the hands together. So as you do this, try not to let your ribs flare forwards. Try to keep them relaxing down, and just localize that stretch to the front of the shoulders, to the front of the chest, and a little bit into the upper back. And then from here, we're going to come and lie on our backs on the mat. So if you have a small cushion or a folded towel, you might want to place that in underneath your head, just so that you can keep your head and your neck in a nice neutral alignment. If you don't have one, it's not so much of a problem. Just remember to keep long through the back of your neck so that you're not allowing your chin to stick up to the ceiling, or keeping that length through the back of the neck, and shoulders relaxing down towards the mat and not allowing them to round forwards. Rib cage just gently melts down into the mat. So we spoke a little bit in some of the earlier exercises about not allowing your ribs to flare forwards. That's the same in this position. Just allowing them to relax down, but don't force them into the mat. Just take them to where you've got your natural resting position. Now we're imagining little springs between the bottom of the ribs and the pelvis, just keeping that distance, but you're not allowing your back to arch and for those springs to lengthen. We're keeping the back again in that neutral position. So don't flatten your back into the mat. You want to have a little gap there. I think last week we talked about having like a little blueberry in underneath your lower back. So just maintaining that position. And then from there, just engaging your abdominal muscles. So just a gentle tensioning. You don't want to be fully bracing your abs. Just a little awareness that you're switching on through these muscles and keeping that nice flat position through the lower abdomen. So from here, we're going to float the arms up to the ceiling, and thinking about maintaining that good posture, we're just going to draw circles round with the arms. So just do a couple here with the feet on the floor. If you want to stick with the feet on the floor, that's totally fine. If you want to make it a bit more challenging, just lifting one leg, and then just engage a little bit stronger to those abdominals as you allow that second leg to float up into your tabletop position. So keeping going with those arm circles. In your tabletop position, you want the knee to be directly over your hip and your feet just to be in line with your knees. And you can bring your knees and your ankles just gently together there as we circle around. So you might feel you have to work a little bit harder through your tummy muscles to keep that position now that you've got the feet off the floor. But again, you shouldn't be bracing your abs. You shouldn't feel that they're doming out, and you shouldn't have any pressure in your lower back as you do this. So if any of those things are happening, just come back a level and place your feet back down on the ground. And from here, we're going to bring in a little bit of movement with the legs. So as we take the arms overhead, we're going to extend away through one leg, and then as you circle the arms back round, bring that leg back in, and then switch to the other side. So we extend away and then circle back to that position, and just keep that going, switching from one side to the other. If you've got your feet on the floor, you can still do that leg movement, but just slide the leg along the mat and back. Whichever position that you're in, just making sure you're maintaining that what we call neutral position through the lower back and pelvis, that the back's not starting to arch, and you're not putting any pressure onto your lower back. And then if you want to make it more challenging still for those abs, we're going to slide the ribs down towards the pelvis, still keeping a little gap underneath your back. But as you do that, your head and shoulders naturally lift off the mat. And keeping the head and shoulders lifted, keeping that length through the back of the neck, we do the same exercise. So you circle away and then return. Extend away and then circle back. So just keeping that going, making sure no pressure through the lower back, that the abs are staying drawing in, and you're just alternating that leg movement and coordinating it with the arms overhead. Your final challenge, if you're finding that this is easy, and do just progress to it if you find this easy, to bring the knees and ankles gently together, and this time as you take the arms overhead, you extend away through both legs. So extend away and then return. But make sure those abs aren't doving up. No pressure through the lower back. No pressure in the head and neck. You've got all of the options there. Just take whichever one feels best for you. Make sure you keep breathing as well. Very important. Don't hold your breath as you're doing these exercises. Well done. We'll just do a couple more here. Working a bit of endurance through those abdominals. And then from there, just take the head and shoulders back to the ground. Bring your knees into your chest and just take a little rock from side to side. Again, just for a little bit of recovery. So from here, we're going to take one leg at a time back down onto the mat and just bring your heels a little bit closer in towards your hips than you did for that first exercise. We're going to get rid of our head cushion, just placing that to the side. And you want to, once again, have that little gap between your legs. So hips, knees and ankles are in line as you do this exercise. We're going to flatten the back into the mat, so tilt the pelvis backwards. And then we're going to roll up into our shoulder bridge. So if you remember, we did this last week. We peel away the tailbone, the lower back, the mid back, and just come up into a bridge position so that you're resting onto your shoulder blades. You don't want to lift too high so that you're putting any pressure on your back or your neck. You want to keep that connection, those springs between the ribs and the pelvis. And then from there, as we come back, just imprinting your spine, piece by piece by piece, back down into the mat, and then finishing back into that neutral position. We're going to make this a little bit quicker, a little bit more flowing, and it might help to work with your breath. So we breathe in to prepare, breathe out as you tilt the pelvis backwards and roll up one vertebra at a time into your bridge position. Inhale to hold at the top and then exhale as you lower back down, again, piece by piece by piece. So just keep that going, working with your own breath in your own time. Become aware of that nice flowing movement through your back, through your spine, as you do in the exercise. As you're lifting up, just sending your knees forwards over your feet. Keeping that control to the movement, keeping the hips level. For this next one, we're going to hold at the top of the movement. So just holding into that bridge position, switching on through the glutes, keeping your back straight. Just become aware of the position of your hips and making sure they're nice and level, that you're not lifting too high so you're putting any pressure onto your lower back, but that you're opening out through the front of the hips as much as you can. And then from here, if you're able to, just connect a little bit stronger with your left foot and allow the right foot to float up into that single leg position. So as you do this, the hips should still stay level. So it's almost like you've got a spirit level across your hips, keeping that nice and balanced. And then you fold that leg back in, connect a little bit stronger on the right leg and allow the left leg to float up. So if as you're doing this, you feel that the hips really dropping down, or you can't control a movement, or you're starting to feel any pressure in your back, just keep on a double leg. You can either hold it there, or you can just continue with the first exercise we did, which was that rolling up and down in the bridge position. So options, rolling up and down, holding on a double leg, or alternating, lifting one leg and then the other. So completely up to you. If you're alternating side to side, You're finding that's okay, just hold it on a single leg this time. I'm going to take the leg up and back down. So just tracing that movement with your toes. Just working through the hip range that you can whilst you keep your lower back and pelvis nice and straight. So if you find that as you're lifting the leg, you start to roll through your back, just don't take your leg quite so high. Or if you find that as you bring the leg down, you're starting to arch through your back, again, don't lower it quite so far. And then let's switch that over to the other side. If you need to take a rest, take a rest. But if you can, just switch straight over to the opposite side and then continue with the exercise. So lifting and lowering. So you want to feel that you're working through the glutes on that supporting leg. Still feeling switched on through the abs to keep your ribs and your hips connected, so you're not losing that position. And then fold that leg back in. We're going to roll back down. We're not going to rest for long. We're going to come straight back up. And this time, everybody's going to hold it on a double leg. And from here, we're going to go back to those arm circles we were doing in the last exercise. So circling the arms over and returning. Holding your hips steady. Just checking through your body, making sure that you're maintaining that good position. If you're finding that your hamstrings are cramping up, you can try bringing your feet in a little bit closer. That sometimes helps to take the pressure out of the hamstrings and more into the glutes. If you're still feeling your hamstrings are cramping, then just come down and have a rest. And then from here, just rolling back down, piece by piece by piece. And we're just going to take a little glute stretch on each side like we did last week. So bringing the foot onto your opposite knee, reaching through with your hands and just bringing that leg in towards you to get a nice stretch through the right glutes. I can definitely feel that there. Just stay relatively relaxed through your upper body, making sure there's no tension developing there. And then switching that over to the opposite side. Just allowing that other leg just to fall out to the side as far as you can comfortably. As you bring that other leg in, just to get that stretch into the glutes. So just releasing the legs down to the floor. We're going to come and lie onto your side so that you're facing the camera. We're going to get into a nice long straight position through the body. Do you want your arm out? If you've got that head cushion or folded towel, just place that in between your arm and your head, again, just to keep that alignment through the body. You're imagining your back is against an imaginary wall here, lifting up through your centre. So you should have a little gap in underneath your waist here. Lengthening that top leg away. So you're making your spine and your body as long as possible. What we're going to do with the top hand is either bring the fingertips just gently down onto the mat in front of you, or you can keep them onto your top hip for a little bit more of a challenge. Now you might find even just in this straight position that you feel a little bit wobbly. So if you're finding that you're wobbling around too much, that's where you might want to bring that hand in front for a little bit of extra support. And from here, keeping the bottom leg in contact with the mat, we're going to lift the top leg just so it's in line with your hip. And from here, we're going to sweep that leg forwards and then all the way back. You sweep forwards, again, just moving from your hip. So if you had a rod down through your hip, bringing you forwards and then squeezing back using the glutes. You really need to stay switched on through your abs as you do this exercise, so keeping that connection between the ribs and the pelvis. I said before, if you feel that you're too wobbly here, you can bring that hand down in front. Try not to be gripping on for dear life, so just fingertip support. And if you're still finding you wobbling around too much, your option is to bend that bottom leg, which gives you a little bit more stability as well. So just working through the range you can control. Similar with the bridge, if you feel you bring that leg back and you're starting to arch your back, just reduce the range a little bit so that you can maintain that neutral position of the lower back and pelvis. We're going to do the same little routine that we did last week, if you remember, working into the glutes. So we're going to hold the leg there as we lift and lower through that top leg. So as you lift and lower the top leg, just be careful that you're still keeping that little gap in underneath your waist. That as you lift the leg, you don't start to sink down into the floor. So the abs are engaged the whole time as you lift and lower, which I say as long through the body as possible. So it's like someone had a hold of your foot and just pulling that away to keep that length and keeping the focus into the glutes. You should be feeling this into sort of back and side of the hip. Try not to feel anything into the front of the hip. If you do, you might want to just bring the leg forwards a little bit, or you might need to move it back a little bit. Just try experimenting with that so that you are really thinking about localizing the movement into the glutes. And then holding that leg as high as you can, we're going to draw circles round with the toes. So if you were drawing a circle on the wall with those toes, nice and controlled, smooth circles round, keeping that gap underneath your waist. And then to finish off, some more little lifts and lowers with the leg. So you should definitely be feeling that work into those top glutes by now. And holding at the top, little pulses. I promise this is the last bit on this side. Perfect, and then bring that leg in front. Just get a stretch through the side of the hip into the glutes. Well done. Okay, we're going to stay on this side. Just bring the knees in front. You can keep your little head cushion as you take your arms out in front. We're just going to do an arm opening here. I'm going to imagine that you're sliding that top arm away and then lift it all the way up and behind you to open out through the chest. And then from that back position, just tracing that same movement all the way back to the front. You lengthen and lift away. Just follow the movement with your eye gaze, so looking around behind. As you do that, try and keep your hips stacked on top of each other so that you're not dropping that hip back and then returning. We'll just do another few here. Really thinking about opening that out. Can get quite tight across your chest and into your pecs and your upper back when you're doing a lot of swimming. So this is a good dynamic mobility exercise to do. And then from there, bring yourself into seated position. We're going to do the same on the opposite side. So bring yourself into that long, straight position. Folded towel or cushion in between. Legs out straight. They can be slightly in front of you, but try to keep that nice straight line through your back as you do this exercise. Engaging through your abs, so connecting ribs and pelvis. And again, creating that little gap in underneath your waist. From there, if you remember, we lift that top leg just in line with your hip. You either have that hand in front or on your top hip to make it a little bit more challenging. and gliding that top leg forwards and backwards. I'm just going to come and have a little look at you once again, see how you're doing. Can't see, a lot of people with their cameras switched off, so it makes it a little bit harder to check how you're doing there, but I'm sure you're all doing really well. Keeping that hip in line. We're going to go into that lift and lower sequence, taking that top leg up and then dropping the foot back in line with the hip. So lift and lower, keeping that little gap underneath the waist, keeping that length through the spine, squeezing into the glutes. Good. Well done. Again, as I say, just imagining someone pulling on that leg, keeping it as long as possible, feeling it into the glutes, so not into the front of the hip. And then hold it there, squeezing into the glutes to draw little circles round with your foot. Good. Strong through your center, keeping a little gap underneath your waist. Holding there, once again, lift and lower. Now as you come down, just bring it to hip height, don't allow it to come all the way down. So we lift and then control that down. Good. We'll just do a couple more here. And then hold it as high as you can. Little pulses there. You know this is the last one as we do this. So hopefully you can feel that you're working there. Hopefully you're still switched on through your center, keeping that little gap there. A nice straight line through the spine. And then just allow that leg to come in front. Give yourself a little stretch through that top hip. And then we'll go into our arm opening exercise on this side. So just bringing the arms in front, one on top of each other, hips stacked. Slide that top hand away and then reaching all the way behind you as you open out through the chest, trying to keep the hips stacked on top of each other and then bringing that all the way back. So extend away, reaching over. And all the way back. Do a couple more on this side. Following with your eyes. Tracing that line directly back. Last one. Go a little bit further on that last one. And then bring yourself over. Once again, we're going to sit down into our shell stretch. Just for a brief little recovery, and then I'm going to finish off with some stretches through the hip flexors. This up slightly. My head doesn't get cut off. So in that kneeling position, tilting the pelvis under, feeling that stretch through the front of the hip. And then from that position, we straighten out that leg, bend the knee to bring the hips forward so they open out through the front of the hip. Now in this position, you can either bring your hands down to the side of your legs. If you do that, just make sure you're not rounding through your upper back. So you might need to come up onto your fingertips or up onto that knee, or you can straighten the arms up overhead just to increase that stretch through the body. As you do that, make sure you're not feeling any pressure through your lower back. So if you are, you might need to come back to that one of those first positions. Try and really open out through your shoulders so that you don't hinge through your lower back. And then bring the arms back down. We'll switch that over to the other side. So coming into that high kneeling position, tilting the pelvis under, feeling the stretch through the front of the leg. Just hold that there for a little second. Or straightening out the front leg and bending your knee to come all the way forwards. Either come up onto your fingers there, like we did on the other side, or onto your knee, or reach those arms up, really try and open through the shoulders. And make sure as you come into that position, as on the other side, you're not feeling any pressure in your lower back. Just a nice stretch through the front of the hip and opening out through the upper body. From there, bring the arms down, sit back once again into our shell stretch, so hips down onto your heels, reaching the hands forwards. Like I said earlier, if you don't want to sit all the way back onto your heels, just keep them lifted slightly. And then from here, we're going to walk the hands across to one side, sit a little bit heavier onto the opposite heel. And then walk your hands over to the opposite side. You should feel that stretching in through here. We're going to come back to the middle and then come back up to standing in the same way as we came down onto the mat. So tuck your toes under, bring your heels to contact the mat, and then just rolling back up piece by piece by piece into that standing position. Give your shoulders a little roll round. If you need to, you have a little sway from side to side just to release any tension there. And then that's your session finished. So well done, everybody. That was really good. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm going to just pause that recording there. And if you have any questions, feel free to shout out or place them in the chat.